Okay, so it is now 7 o'clock on Tuesday, March 4th, 2025. This is the Finance Committee's meeting at Town Hall. I'll read from the agenda. An agenda was posted back on February 25th. I tried to amend the agenda today, but didn't follow all of the state guidelines, so what's posted right now on the town website is does not have the original agenda. But we'll follow the original agenda, and then I'll just, under communications, add the two things I wanted to put on the new business.
Very good.
We have everyone here with us tonight. Hi, Mike. Hey, Jason.
Yeah,
Not to be confused with Justin.
every once in a while he comes up.
Yeah. And Ralph Mitchell is not here with us. He's still under the weather, and Mike Warner is traveling on business. So we definitely have a quorum. We don't have any minutes to adopt tonight. Elizabeth will be back with us next Tuesday. Reserve fund still stands at $35,000. Just to quickly itemize new business, we have the town administrator, Mary Beth Carter, here with us tonight, along with Kathy Keefe, and some visitors, two selectmen who are here to show support town administrator and us. Under old business, we have subcommittee reports. And then I have two things under communication that I'll bring up. So with Mary Beth here, I think I'll start, unless anyone has any questions, I'll start with Mary Beth. Thank you, Mary Beth, for coming tonight.
Thank you.
We look forward to working with you.
Same here, same here. So I saw on the budget, on your agenda that you had animal control first. Do you want me to start with that, or do you want me to go in order of the budget?
Let's do animal control because I think it's going to be simpler.
It is
Okay.
very easy. Very easy. So animal control, I just took this budget and added 2.5% for the salary for the animal control officer. And then I level funded the animal control expense. I did go back through the budget and add 2% for most expense lines because costs have gone up. And that's the assumption that the Department of Revenue recommended was a 2%. But I looked at also what was actually expended in fiscal 24, and where they had $8,000 budgeted last year and they only expended $5,360. I didn't see a need to go up 2% on that particular line. So any line, where that happened, where people didn't really expend everything and there was a cushion, I didn't bother going up on the 2%.
What department number is
This is 19, animal control, I'm sorry.
19.
19. And then the removal of dead animals is 0. I level funded that. And basically the salary's at 2.5, expenses are 0, and the overall budget is 2.11. So that's easy.
It is easy. Does anybody have any questions?
The question is, she has a vehicle, correct?
She does yes, they had a vehicle that was in disrepair for years, and before I got here, there was an article that was placed on the warrant that passed.
Yeah.
So then I took that, and we had to find a vehicle at that time for the $40,000 or whatever, and we found it for 30 some odd thousand.
Does it need any maintenance? Is it allocated to another department, that vehicle?
No, not at the moment.
No fuel or anything like that?
The fuel, actually, she has only filled up the tank a few times
I'm just asking.
in the year, so that would just come out of the budget. But
That's fine.
yep, no, she doesn't really put a lot on it. She's been out for a few weeks, but
And that was a brand new vehicle, correct?
no,
No.
it was a used vehicle.
I saw it. Looks good.
It does look good. It has to be big enough to put the animals in.
Yes.
They wanted to put some cages,
I
in the
remember
back.
I remember what we used to have.
Right.
So yeah,
Right.
definitely need it.
It was an improvement, for sure, for sure.
I called once this year.
You did? There you go.
Yeah.
You found something
On your
in the
neighbors,
street?
right?
Great information. Went back and forth. Just skunks, walking around out midday.
Oh boy.
Yeah.
That's what it was.
Scraggly. I just wasn't sure, But
Yeah.
That's to call.
very informative.
She's very knowledgeable.
Yeah.
It's
Absolutely.
Joe Kenny as well.
Yep.
Yeah, because I had a question. Still the two of them?
Correct.
Two.
Okay.
And that salary is split between the two?
Correct. Absolutely. Split 2 part-time positions. Yep. Yep.
Yeah. Thank you.
Any other questions, or does anyone need a little bit more time to digest this? Okay, thanks, Mary Beth.
Okay. So then I went up to and started with number 2, the select board. Okay, and just running down that, I have a contract for the town administrator that has a 3% increase for '26. The assistant town administrator, the 2.5% that we've told for other departments, and same with the admin. The recording secretary, you'll notice, is quite high. It's a 25% increase. If you look at what was budgeted in '24, it was $2160. What was expended was $2939. Last year, things were so tight in the budget that I put it at $2160 and might have shot myself in the foot there, because we do have a new recording secretary. If you've seen Erica's minutes, they're absolutely fantastic. They're very detailed, but the time that she puts into those, plus just the learning curve, added to the amount of meetings and executive sessions and union issues and so forth, that she's already, not she, but the line is just about expended for the year now. So I'll have to do a line item transfer at the end of the year, or put an article on. So I did increase that to $2,700. She also, Lori O'Brien, who was the former recording secretary, sat down with her. And well, I said, everybody loves Erica's minutes. They're awesome. But just to try to streamline the process a little bit. So I did increase that to $2,700, and that's why there's a large percent there for increase. Then the other items were level funded going down for the municipal hearings officer, the education expense, and the sick leave for all departments. The longevity actually is a change. I did have in there $5,000 today. I got the actual calculation from the accountant's office, and it comes out to $3,250. So there was a reduction there. The assistant department head stipend is unchanged. There are 3 assistants that get the stipend. That's $3,250. I did increase the expense line, and I had increased it for 2% there on the expense line. But what I added in today is we have general E-code, and so that's our bylaws, zoning bylaws and general bylaws, and that company updates the bylaws online, and so there's an annual maintenance fee of about $1,300 that the last few years I've put on as a P article or an article for that, and it's really going to be in the budget every single year. So I added that to the line. I will have an article to update each year, depending on the bylaws that we have. So this year we have one for the recorded meetings. There was a bylaw that was passed that is a great bylaw, I think, that we have in place. However, it didn't have a timeline stated, a time in which the departments must post those to WHCA. So some committees, boards, haven't uploaded their recordings timely. And to me, it doesn't matter what the recording says, whether you've done your minutes, whether you've voted your minutes, the recording is the recording. It's not going to change. You can't go back and edit. So there's no reason. So the bylaw committee voted that those should be uploaded within 72 hours of the meeting. And it's a pretty easy process to upload the meetings. The second bylaw is, there was one for the start time of annual town meeting. Mm-hmm. We did take the special town meeting. We moved it last year I should say, from 7:30 to 7 o'clock, and that went over really well with everyone. Where that's a special town meeting, that's not a bylaw. So the select board can just determine, the time and vote that each year. But as far as changing the annual town meeting, and people like the special town meeting change, they also want to see that for the annual, get people in a little earlier. People have to go to work, they have kids, so it can be a very long night. Gives us a little earlier start. That's a bylaw change. So we did vote, instead of changing it from 7:30 to 7, basically what we voted was the time of the meeting will be set by the select board each year. So then there's some flexibility there. Mm-hmm. So that will be another bylaw that will need to be updated. That's a bylaw, so for this year, we have to start the annual town meeting at the normal time of 7:30. And then if this article is passed, the bylaw is passed, it will go into effect the following year. The other bylaw was the snow removal bylaw. There was an issue the first little snowstorm that we had this year where we got a considerable amount of snow. The DPW, Bruce and his men went out to, plow the streets. There were parked cars. They couldn't plow where they needed to. There were some tickets that were issued. And so now we just updated that bylaw saying that there's no parking from 11 to, 6 or whatever, however it reads exactly, from, November to April. So there are some changes there for that one. And then the other one, which isn't a general bylaw, but a zoning bylaw, is the ADU, the additional dwelling units. So that's going to be a large change, a zoning bylaw article. So E-code, separate from the regular maintenance fee that I added into the budget because that's recurring, is every year, depending on the bylaws that get voted, we have to pay for those to be updated in our bylaws. So that I'll treat separately each year, depending on, because I never know, are we going to have one bylaw or 5 bylaw changes? But the regular fee, the maintenance fee, $1,300, we just added back into the expense line. Let me take a look. And then the pilot. This one looks a little odd here. So this is Rockland. So this is the Camp Alice Carlton land. So the fiscal 24 budget, we had budgeted $65.83. In 25, I cut that budget. I was looking to cut everywhere. I cut it to 55 because we did not receive our fiscal 24 bill until June. Yep. So the only bill I had to go by was the fiscal 24 bill that was $4,000 some odd dollars. So I figured, well, if that was $4,600 or whatever that was that year, that we could just go up to $5,500. But that bill actually came in for 24. You can see it's $65.83. So they actually did a change with their tax rate and valuations.
They had a big.
They had a big tax increase.
A lot of work to pay, yeah.
Right. So I was shocked when I saw the amount of increase from what we had paid the year before.
Right.
Let me just take a look at $4,839. So I said, we'll put 55 in,
Yeah.
and it came in at 65.83. So this year, Kathy put in as the former assessor and did some calculations, and it looks like that bill will come in a little under $7,200. So that's why you see that increase there. Nothing really we can do about that one. Yeah. So overall, the select board budget looks like a 3.20 with 2.86 in salaries and a 6.1 in expenses. Any questions on that one before I go on to the next section?
A basic question as the new person.
Sure.
Pilot, what does that stand for?
Payment in lieu of taxes.
Gotcha.
So it is land in Rockland that's owned by Whitman. So we have to pay them. Yeah.
Is there still a committee working on what are we going to do with the land?
So Kathy, the committee
Yes.
made a determination, right?
Yeah, so the committee recommended to the select board that we reach out to Rockland to gauge their interest in perhaps buying the land from Whitman. The letter did go out. We got a response from Doug Lapp, who is the town administrator for the town of Rockland.
Mm-hmm.
And I believe they have accessed some Community Preservation Act funding to get an appraiser to appraise the land. And so we are in the beginnings of negotiations
Okay.
to see what it would look like to perhaps sell it to Rockland.
With the hopes there'd be restrictions
With
with,
the restrictions that
They're
there would be
usable.
restrictions.
Yes.
Right, because I believe their intent is to keep it as
It is.
it is and have it kind of
So I think
They wanna add it to
abuts to
theirs.
the McCarthy farm,
Yeah,
How much land is it?
30 acres.
How did you acquire that?
in a will. It was deeded to the town
Huh.
with restrictions.
It's deeded to the Girl Scouts.
Oh, yes,
They-
Justin has the history.
Yeah, I went through this whole, it's a,
So, and the whole parcel was deeded to the town of Whitman, but part of the parcel is Rockland land, so we're making payments in lieu of taxes to Rockland for land that we were gifted. Sometimes you don't want to accept a gift. Not in this case. This was a wonderful gift, but
Yeah.
sometimes you don't want to take someone's gift.
Yeah.
Any other questions?
Any questions? Okay. So the next item is it's item 20, vocational education. So I'm going to hand out, I don't know if you've received this, I'll pass that around. This information was received from the Social Regional School District for our assessment for the 25-26 budget. Let me just go to my notes here.
We just had Farman last week.
Oh,
Yeah.
he's great, isn't
Yes,
he?
he is.
Yeah.
So you will notice there about 2/3 of the way down the page where it says Whitman on the left, that our enrollment for 2025 was 165 students, and for fiscal year 26, it's 147 students. So the assessment in 25 was $1,793,327. This year, that assessment is down to $1,650,218. So it's down $143,109, which is good news there. Let's take a look. And that's 20, I think I said.
Yes.
Yeah, that's true.
Okay. So the next item, other vocational schools. Last year, we voted 443,600, and this year we're projecting 515,000. Just so you know, for the vocational schools, other than South Shore Vo-Tech, we have Norfolk Aggie and we have Bristol Aggie. The base rate for Norfolk Aggie is $27,540 per person, per student. The capital rate per student is $1,701. And we found out this year, which we've never seen before, a special ed rate of $7,765 per student. And as it happened, we had 2 students this year initially that were special ed students, and so that we got hit with this 77 twice. This past year, there were 2 students that incurred the additional cost. However, 1 student dropped out mid-year. So currently, the town has 15 students enrolled. 5 seniors are there. They'll be graduating. And 4 students so far to date have applied. But you have to remember that we have town meeting in May, and they accept students up to August. So we never really know when we put this number. So you have to add in a little cushion because you just don't know. So they can apply, through August, and we added a cushion of approximately 2 students.
Okay.
In Bristol, there's just one rate. It's not a base and a capital and a special ed. That's $28,500. And they bill in arrears, which was different. Last year was the first year we had a student at Bristol. And
Yeah, I remember.
Yeah.
First time I remember hearing it, yeah.
right, so they are billing us this year in 2 bills for the last year's school year. But it's something that I just want to leave in there each year, because when you then have a senior leaving, you still would have to budget the following year
Pay
for
for
them.
it.
And then if we have any kind of extra student, or there's a little bit of a cushion there. We only have 1 student enrolled, and again, they can enroll right past town meeting, and you just don't know.
And in the past, that cushion has served well. We've always had enough, and in the past, we've been able to, when we know what we have, obviously, if there's extra money in there, we've moved it for other uses.
Moved it, right, or it washes back to free
Yeah.
cash. So
Right.
it's, I don't think that having a cushion of 2 students is that bad for the Bristol.
Quick question.
Sure.
On the student that dropped out, what does that do for enrollment? Is it like prorated? Are you only paying half, or does?
We would pay half on that.
Yep,
So-
so
Yeah.
the bill for the second semester was without
Without.
that student.
We
Okay.
paid it for the first,
All right.
for the first
Okay.
half. Yep.
Did we end up in another vocational school?
I'm not
What-
sure.
I
whether-
said, did they end up just going to another vocational school or not?
They may have gone back to
They
Whitman.
may have,
Hanson.
Oh,
yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
we wouldn't have that level of information because it's student privacy. But somebody should know where is that and how are we being billed for it separate from enrolling in the local school system.
Got double billed.
Does that go through you, Mary Beth? These
What's
bills?
that?
It doesn't go through the superintendent.
No, these bills come
Come
directly.
directly to the town?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Do you know if the addition of vet tech and plumbing at South Shore VOTech, which is significantly less expensive than 27,000 plus 1,000, 1,700 plus 7,700?
For special ed.
Yes, if the addition of those two programs at South Shore VOTech will affect students going to Norfolk, are they going to Norfolk or Bristol for vet tech and plumbing? And this will bring kids closer to home and to less expensive programs? Or do we have?
You know, I don't, I'm sure we could obtain that information, but we're not given that information on what they're, you know.
And it wouldn't affect the current kids because that's not going to happen until the new building is up and running.
That's right.
But
But, yeah,
Tom
That's right.
has the foresight to anticipate what's the need.
Oh,
How can I
absolutely.
save money?
Absolutely. He's great.
Yes.
He's
Right.
great.
that's a good point because they may have the opportunity to stay closer to home and that would only benefit.
We're talking $40,000 tuition for a sped student who goes to Norfolk. One student.
Right now, but for that sped, I mean, out of 15, there were 2.
Okay.
So not every student do we pay that 7,700.
But it's still
It was 2. We were surprised because
30,000 for non-sped kids,
right,
not the 11,000 that we're paying to
Right.
South Shore.
absolutely.
That's 3 kids.
And we have to supply the transportation for the other 2 schools. So that's where I'm going next. So for the vocational transportation, we went out to bid last year. Well, I should say for a portion of it. So let me just give you a little bit of a breakdown on that. So for North River, or I should say Norfolk Aggie, there's 2 legs of the transportation that we pay. There's 2 different bills. So one leg of the journey is from the home, one leg of the journey to the Norfolk Aggie is from the home to the first student bus stop. So it takes them part of the way there. We get billed by North River. It's billed out to the town. The cost, this transportation cost, gets the student from the home to the first student bus stop. And this is based on the total amount of buses that are needed, and then it's apportioned out to all of the towns that go there. So the North River busing transportation portion is $49,140 is what we're calculating for fiscal '26. Then for student, we get billed from them. That's the second leg of the journey to the Norfolk Aggie. That picks them up at the first student bus stop and takes them to the school. This amount includes an estimated 5% increase, as does the North River portion. We figured a 5% increase on the busing. That first student cost we have estimated at $23,520. Then we have a company, TCJA, and this is to drive the one student that we have from Whitman that goes to Bristol Aggie. For that one student, the cost is, we project $19,000. Hanson has 2 students, Whitman has 1. TCGA, Hanson and Whitman went out with an RFP. The bid came in for fiscal year '25 at $15,660. As soon as we accepted the bid and we were going through the paperwork to get everything signed, and this happens, the schools should be handling this transportation really because it's being all settled and people are calling us. School is Tuesday, you know, who's taking my child? And it's last minute, but at $15,660, when we got the quote and all the paperwork is being finalized, the person who bid said, "Oh, that's not the right price." Well, it's the bid and we accepted it, and that is the price. So we know that that's going up because she said, no, that was too low. So we know it's going up. We don't know how much yet. So we figured $19,000 for that piece. That's a lot of money for one student.
Yes.
What year?
That student is now a sophomore.
Yep.
Right. Because we had it last year as a freshman.
We only had a single response, I assume, from the RFP.
Bidding.
No, I think we had a few. Did we? We went with the lowest,
We did.
Yeah.
We did.
but I don't believe we had a single.
You went with the lowest at 15, and then what was the next one up?
Oh, I couldn't
We
tell
can
you
check.
off the top
No.
of my head, but.
No,
I
that was
know the
last
previous-
year.
I feel like the previous year, we paid more than 18,000 for a single bid that we received.
So is the assumption that she's coming back up to 18 or somewhere in that range? Or
I
I don't know
would-
how you wrote the RFP, so I don't know what it looks like.
Right,
But
yeah.
The previous
Typically-
year was different company altogether, yeah,
that's interesting.
yeah. So,
It's odd that you would hear that. Oh, sorry, that's the wrong price. I just would probably not accept the response.
right. But
Well, yeah, you guys didn't. You just
No, that was
said,
after
hey,
the
we
fact.
signed.
that was after the fact,
That was
after she signed.
Oh,
Yeah,
oh,
it was like-
that's-
Sign
After
first.
she
that's on
signed.
you.
That's what I said.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I thought that we were entertaining a raise. in her.
no.
Oh, no. We had the documents all signed and we were
Yeah.
getting the student ready
So
to
she
go to
signed the
school.
contract and then-
Uh-huh.
She did.
And then she said, oh, no, that's too low. And I'm like, well, that's what you signed. It's,
Yeah, okay.
So if
It's
she
done.
comes
That's
back
what I
this
meant.
year,
It's gonna be-
she'll obviously probably bid higher
She is
to
going to.
recoup some money,
Right.
Yep.
and she still may be the low bidder.
She may
Yes.
be. She may be, and it's funny because even the year before is not funny, was, over 18, as Kathy said, and I remember that Beth Stafford called and said, that's such a great price compared to what people are seeing
Yeah.
to take these students. I'm like, that's a good price, like, for one
Yeah.
student?
And they're typically a van, It's,
Yep.
it's usually a van, someone that owns a few vans and they're doing,
Exactly.
doing this.
Yep.
What was
Exactly.
the price, Mary Beth? Because I wrote the wrong numbers.
TCGA,
Yes.
we figured 19,000.
19,000.
Yep. And this year was 15,660.
Yes.
But we know that,
Probably
Probably be higher.
Expensive.
yep.
For $100 a day. Okay.
Okay. So, let's see what I have after this.
Okay, any other questions on vocational education?
Is there a cap on like these students? I'm not sure the process of students enrolling in whether it's the South Shore or these other vocational schools.
On the amount that they will accept?
Well, just the number of students that.
Well, for South Shore VOTEC, there's only a certain amount of students for each town. However, if other towns in the group don't use all their seats, Whitman has been able to get those seats for our kids. That's why we've had the highest enrollment in the South Shore VOTEC. As far as the other schools, I don't know that there's a cap on.
I don't believe there's a cap. I know the superintendent has to sign off both charter schools and I believe the out-of-district
That's
vocational
correct.
schools.
Yeah.
But he said in his matrix, he has no valid reason to deny a student a
Right.
chance to go to the school they want to go to. So
It's like school choice. If they
It
want to go
is.
to a charter school, they go to the charter school, and the superintendent can't say, no, you're coming to Whitney-Hanson. So there is no cap, but just briefly back to the South Shore Regional School. In theory, we should only have 20 students per year because it's based on our percentage of 8th graders compared to the total 8th grade percentage in the other 8 towns.
Oh wow.
But Cohasset and Norwell historically do not fill their seats, and as those seats are not filled, our students on the wait list get accepted. So that's why we're at 147 students instead of, in theory, 80. Yep.
Like Tom said, moving forward, Marshfield has just joined, and they might start to fill some of their seats. And I think he said he's seeing some interest in some of the other towns.
Yes.
Pembroke
That,
is interested in
Pembroke.
joining.
I saw
Yeah,
that
and
recently.
even some of the towns that are with us already, that they're starting to send a few more.
Well,
kids
even
there.
Norwell, they went up
Yeah.
their
You
You can see it
enrollment.
in
So
the-
our seats, we might not have as many extra seats available. So our attendance, our kids might be sticking around that, or maybe even dropping until they get the new school.
Correct. No, I think
Yeah.
that number could go down as
Yeah.
well, because you're right, the Norwells are picking up Situate, I
Yeah.
think, had a few. So you can see that the other towns, especially with the other two programs that they're adding,
Right.
there's more
There's
interest
gonna be a lot of
there.
interest.
So, our kids have been fortunate that, there has been
Yeah,
so many
they've had that
spots.
opportunity. Yeah.
However, from a budgetary standpoint, the percentage goes down, our liability will go down as well.
That's why it was so important to pass that regional agreement language change in December. Like, we'd be stuck with 24% of the debt for 30 years if the language had not been changed, so.
And that would have been a game changer for me. I mean, and I'm VOTEC, I really
Yeah.
I wish I had sent my son, I mean, looking back now. However, to pay that high percent for the entire
Yeah.
life of the bond, if your percentage, if 24% now, but down the road it's 22, 17, 15, and we're paying 24% of the debt,
No.
Yeah.
that would have.
9 towns did a good job because it was unanimous. Every town voted.
Yeah, it was nice to see that get through
Yeah,
with the change.
Yeah.
Anybody else? Okay, where are you going to take us next, Mary Beth?
I'm going to take you, well, just quickly, there's no change, but the miscellaneous under 29, it's just the Whitman Will and the Plymouth County 4-H, and that's just general town, so there's no department that really has that. The historical capital bylaw, I mean, those are just all level funded. I cut a lot of those last year. I did an actual budget looking at exactly what was expended. And I did the same, I put in what was expended for 24, but last year I really went back and cut where I could from those. So this year I just left that all as level. The debt, those are the numbers that have gone over with Sharon. We'll double check those all again. You see under debt service 33, the debt payment interest is down. And that's basically, I think, on the police station debt,
Okay.
as that decreases. You'll see also under the debt service Title V, I believe that's the last year, 26, for that debt. So that came down from the 2706 the year before, just down to the 729, and then 26 that ends. You'll notice too, I don't know if the last version of the debt of the budget that I gave you, line 34, the OPEB trust fund, I did have 0 in there. Sean Kane had, talked about using free cash for that item, which I think is a good idea. I'm on board with that, but we still have to put it in the budget. So it has to be in there. So in an ideal world, if we had a balanced budget right now, and we wanted to use free cash for the 140 for the OPEB and a couple $100,000 for our Plymouth County retirement, that would be our only deficit, and then we'd fund with free cash. So I did add that back to the budget. And then we get actually to number 35, the townwide expenses. So I thought I'd go over all those with you. And the first one is the annual audit. So there's a big jump there. What was voted in 25 was 57,000. Now we had a firm, Melanson Heath. They merged with a company called Markham, and completely different company. They did our different firm. They did our audit last year, and this year we moved on to CLA, Clifton Larson, Allen. Their quote, and actually even Markham said, I don't think I'm going to be able to get to you. They did a lot of extra work with us last year, especially like with the accountants area and so forth. And they said, Meredith, I just don't know when we're going to be able to get to you. Our field rep had actually called me a couple of weeks before and said, Meredith, I'm moving on, I'm leaving. So anyway, when he said he didn't know when he could get to us, I went out and made some calls, and we got Clifton Larson. Well, Clifton Larson came in quite a bit higher, even for 25. They came in, even though we budgeted 57, they came in, I think, at 66.5. So I'm using ARPA money for the difference there.
For fiscal 25.
For fiscal 25.
And it was at 66.5, you said?
So it's 59,000 for the financial statement audit, and they said an additional $7,500 if we need a single audit, one major program. And if you get in a certain amount of money of federal funds and you're over that threshold, you are required to do a single audit. Because of the ARPA money that we receive, they expect that we are going to need that this year. So it's 66,500. So using that as what I know we're going to be paying for fiscal 25, I did send an email off to CLA to say, what is your percentage increase? What are you expecting, 2%, 3%, you know. And I haven't heard back yet. So I just went with 69,000. Now, in addition to this audit, I told you that one of the auditors left, Markham, our field reps. Well, he called, and he's now with CLA. So, but he's not on the general audit side. He's on the audit side for the fixed asset services. So I told you, I think I've mentioned at the joint meeting that our software system, our financial package, it's not really end of life, it's beyond end of life. I mean, we just need a new package, and it's hundreds of thousands of dollars. But anyway, one item that they noted in our audit last year is they want us to update our chart of accounts in the accounting system. And in talking to John Adams, the consultant, he said, you can't. I said, can we just pay you to do that project? And then I could check that off on the audit. And he said, no, you can't, Mary Beth, because the company that we have, even though there is a chart of accounts, was never really a municipal software program when it started. So the chart of accounts isn't really designed perfectly for a municipality. So he said, what you need to do is you need a new software company. So we know that that's something that we have to do, and sooner rather than later down the road. But fixed assets is something that the auditors are looking at, and they're now offering this year that they can go in and get our fixed assets numbers all prepared and ready, and it was cost of $6,500. So I said to John, is that a good spend? He's like, oh my gosh, you have no idea. So I used ARPA money for this. It's going to put us in great shape. We did get some marks on our audit for accounting, so we feel that this is a good investment. But just to let you know that this $69,000 that I projected is for the general audit. It does not include whether we want fixed assets done again next year. I'm assuming that we are going to want the fixed assets piece done until we get new software.
New software.
Right. So this does not include that. I want to have another conversation with Wendy Kivicki and John Adams. And I also want to wait and see what the increases come back from CLA. So just one thing I want to mention there.
Just for Ann's benefit, Wendy Kavicki is the new town accountant, and John Adams is an experienced town accountant, so he's going to sort of bridge the training.
Right.
Just so that you know the names, because my first year when people were throwing names around, I don't know who they are.
Thank you. You are correct. You are correct. And John is fantastic. So he filled in when we didn't have an accountant, and then when we did have a previous accountant, he stayed on board to help transition. And his knowledge, I mean, he's been a finance director for years. He came from Duxbury. He's been in the industry for 35, 40 years. So he's really superb. And I couldn't be more thrilled with Wendy Kavicki. She's really super. So then I go down to legal services. So they did not, our legal services basically is, our attorney's fees. We use Murphy, Lemire, and Murphy. They didn't go up on their rate this year. However, they said, Mary Beth, I'm not going to go up on the rate this year, because they knew how tight things were last year. But they said, you have 5 unions up for negotiations. We will have to go up on our rate. I did, let's see if I have it here. It's probably in my books. But they are going up on the rate, and for fiscal 26, 4.5%. So I factored that in on there. And then let's see. The interpretive services is level funded. The town report, so last year, because everything was so tight, I did not, for fiscal 24, we budgeted, let's see, 5210. 25, we budgeted 6,000. The costs went up. So I said, well, if we have to order less, we have to order less. And you hate to always do that, right? We're going backwards here.
Yeah.
So I did just go up on that. I went up on expenses, but I went on that line, I went up 2%. The mailing and duplicating expense, I was really worried about that, but looked like in 24 that we really didn't expend all of the line, even with the costs going up. So there I just went up 2%. Oh, let's talk about the next line, the vacation pay. Any questions there? No? The vacation pay for terminating employees. So this line was 38,000, and you can see that was what it was budgeted for 24, and that's what we expended in 24. Because we were so tight last year, I took a lot of that money. So what that means is, when I was in the treasurer's office, I had two people retire about 6 weeks apart. They were both 25-year employees, basically. So they each had 5 weeks vacation going out the door. So at that time, I said to Frank, well, what am I going to do? He said, well, you can't hire anybody for 5 weeks. So there I am with one person down for 5 weeks, no help. And then the next person gave their notice. And again, I had to wait 5 more weeks before I could hire somebody. It was terrible. So this line we have used when somebody is retiring, not every time because we've had a lot of retirements, but when we can, and it's going to be a big impact to the budget, if there's money there, we can use some of that money. The reason that I need to get this line back up from what I did last year, 22, the reason I'm going to 40 is there is an employee in the DPW. We've done away with most of it, but there's one employee that will be retiring who's getting some pay when he leaves for his unused time.
vacation?
Correct.
Even, yeah, if I can jump in, even beyond that, when he was in the union, he accrued a lot of comp time and has been carrying it his entire time
That's
in
insane.
management.
Yeah.
What's the policy now for new employees, town employees? Is it you can't carry them over 10 days?
Right, 9 days or.
But
Yep.
So that
DPW,
you guys know what happened to,
There's a cap.
you know, there's a.
DPW negotiates separate from the select board, and
What's that?
DPW
They
makes
have
its
a-
own bargaining.
The commissioners,
Yeah.
DPW,
Yeah,
the
so,
Board of Commissioners.
Board of Commissioners.
Yep. But I think
The
he's
two
one of the
superintendents,
last
Not
ones.
the union is still bargained through the select board's office.
right, but it's the
The two
superintendents.
superintendents are bargaining.
They make a
with the
lot of money, and when they
commissioners.
retire, they
This
get.
is the last one that I know of.
This is the last one I know of
Please
too.
do.
but
They don't use
Yeah.
sick time, use it like a nobody was
there's,
here.
somebody else.
I don't think so.
Yeah.
This-
I don't think so.
Yeah,
Kill us.
We thought we got away with
we thought
the
we did,
so-called
we thought
Lincoln,
this was.
Lexington plan.
Lexington.
And it
Yeah.
still comes up every so often, that it's a
Yeah.
benefit that just it's outdated.
I
Has to
think
be.
of it though from the working side, like myself, I don't have time to take a vacation. If I just had stuff accruing, it wouldn't be anything besides it just was accruing because I don't have time to take vacation.
But
Like
I-
that vacationing adds up, great, but you know,
Yeah, but
I
you-
can't put work on hold, you know, it's great that I get a vacation time or whatever. But
Right.
sometimes, you know, life gets in the way. These people, some of them, I don't think they're carrying scheme working. It's like, I'm saving this to screw the town.
No.
You know?
No, yeah.
I was the treasurer collector
You know? And
for 19 years. I gave up 52 weeks of vacation. No payout because I'm elected, but it's so busy down there. I couldn't take time off. And I'm like, I was crazy to give up all
the
that
ones that
time.
don't take vacation are really
Yeah.
good at what they're doing for work because they tend to not take vacation.
I didn't
and
take
focus on
vacation,
work.
yeah.
Yeah, it's not to, put somebody in a bad light, but,
No.
if you have an assistant and you have a good team under you, you should be able to take a vacation. And nowadays, more than others, things are so crazy. People need vacations.
Yeah.
They
I
should be
say
forced.
that. I agree.
Yeah, I think
Really-
that's
Really need to
something
take your
I
time.
coach
But-
into it. Like, hey, listen,
But unfortunately, it really does a number on the budget. So, other things suffer. There could be a vehicle that doesn't get bought because somebody's getting what was accrued. So, I think luckily in some of the language that was changed,
It was.
so it might make people, oh, you use it or lose it,
Yeah,
but
you-
you should still take time off.
right.
I think you're better for it. You come back
You're better
and
for it, yeah.
ready to hit
If
the
you
job.
got a good
You
team
should.
under you,
Everyone needs it.
you do.
No, I agree, 100%. However, we know this is coming, right?
Yeah.
And I'm not sure when this person is retiring, but I do know that the payout is going to be, I think in about this range. I think in about this range. Plus, we do use this, like I said, for other
Other stuff,
big
yeah.
hits to the departments when they have a lot of people retiring.
Yeah.
So that's why there's a significant increase there. And then the next one is the Plymouth County retirement, and we have absolutely
Yeah.
Nothing we can do about this one. It's an increase of 11.32% and a dollar increase of $363,260. I will say that this Plymouth County retirement pension liability was supposed to be paid off in 2029. It got moved out 1 year, and I feel now that we're so close, I just want to plow through it and see the end. However, I am not going to be surprised if this gets pushed out again for another year because the increases are so staggering.
So when you say pushed out, is that pushed out because we can't afford to pay that, or who's pushing that out? Plymouth County? Are they
Right.
giving
So
people more time, saying that because it's costing more? Yeah, just
right,
explain
right.
that.
And I was on the Plymouth County Retirement Board for years as well. So the Plymouth County Board itself really will make that determination, and then it goes to the general board, at all the towns. However, when the actuary comes in and does the scenarios, the different scenarios, and they look at what the impact is going to be based on the latest information, which is, what kind of raises, what is the age of the employees that we're hiring these days, and the older employees cost more. And if we are paying higher raises, if people are having large raises, then that affects it. And so it's done like town by town, and you'll get your amount. And a lot of these increases are just so huge that the towns are saying, I can't absorb this in my budget. You have to go out a year and lessen the impact.
So that's them saying, all right, unfortunately, it's a lot more money, but we're going to give you more time to pay it.
Right, but at the same time, I feel like we're so close to the end.
Yeah.
So 2026, it was supposed to be over in 29, now it's 30. It's like, let's just get this over, because then our assessment here of 3.5 million goes down 90%. I mean, wouldn't that be great? I'd like to take that money when we finally pay it off and take a good portion of it and start paying down our OPEB liability, which is our other post-employment benefits. It's the health insurance side, the insurances, and then use some of the money, some of those savings finally to infuse into the budget,
into the regular
which we
budget.
sorely need.
Yeah.
So I hate to see it pushed out, but yet I don't want to see increases that are 15% or, so I think that we'll use an assumption if we do a multi-year override calculation working with Sean, we'll probably use, 12%, because I think that's probably what we'll see.
So when
Yep, go ahead.
2030, that line will drop 90%.
It will only be about normal costs. Yes, I asked that question.
It's huge.
Huge. Yep, that should drop way down. The unemployment here, you'll see that there was 8,000 voted in 24, and we only expended 598. In 25, there was 9,000. So far, we've had one claim, and guess whose name it was? Guess who? Me.
Oh.
Fraudulent claim for unemployment.
Oh, I
Oh.
heard that, yes.
Oh.
What?
Yeah, somebody stole your
fraudulent
ID.
claim for somebody
Somebody
got
trying to steal
identified.
your identification. I had that happen to me a couple of years ago.
Yep. So and I also had Social Security contact me. Somebody's trying to draw my benefits. So.
Yeah.
Yep. So there was a payout we have expended. It's only been the one claim. We have already been reimbursed. Of course, it doesn't just go back into the line. It's sort of like a credit for the next time somebody
Okay.
files. But we never know. We've had years where we've had a lot. So I just level funded that line. The medical life insurance did get voted by Plymouth County at 7%. So I went with that. And the Medicare, we just took a 3% increase there for the Medicare tax. That's the town match. So everybody has Medicare withheld from their checks. 1.45% is paid by the employee, 1.45% is paid by the town. There have been several years that, and I will have the treasurer collector take a look at these numbers, that we have had, contracts at the end of the year, or payouts or retros, or just towards the end of the year we do the calculation and realize we're going to be short a little bit. But but the last couple of years, I think we've been okay. So I've done a 3%, which is what we've done the last couple of years, I believe. And then general liability insurance, we just did a 3% increase. So unfortunately, while it says 9.25%, you can see that, the biggest one there is the Plymouth County.
Yeah, big number. Yep.
Yep. There's one other item that I just wanted to mention on the Council on Aging budget. I know it's really not under the Select Board, but I just thought,
Can you just pass for a second so I can see if anyone
oh yes,
has
sorry.
questions on the line items under the Department 35? We're good? Okay.
We're good?
Thanks, Mary. So
Okay.
Council on Aging?
Yep, 25.
Yep.
So, you might remember, that custodial expenses
Yep.
were an issue last year.
Yes.
So last year, just for an example, say it was $12,000. So last year I took $4,000 from the facilities budget, and I had Mary Holland use $8,000 out of her grant. This year, I was going to add $4,000, which I did, to the facilities. Mary's only using $4,000. And then next year we'll add $4,000. So we're kind of transitioning, and putting it in a little at a time. But I did take a look at her budget, and I said, well, wait a minute, Mary. I said, it's not just your custodial, but also maintenance expenses. So she had $18,500 in what she submitted to you.
Yep.
And she said, well, no, if Todd is going to take that over. And I said, well, yes, I'm trying to move utilities and maintenance all to the facilities. It just makes sense.
That's the one they're bouncing money from one person back and forth from one
Yes.
fund, one overage to pay for it, yeah.
Yeah.
The library had
Yeah.
the same situation. It's like, why do we have multiple departments
Right.
when we have a facilities manager?
Correct. It
And
should be
consolidate.
streamlined.
Yeah, have
Yep.
Todd organize it and handle it.
Right, but there also was, one was pulling money from one of their funds to give money to Todd, wasn't that there? And he later was gonna pull money from his overage and pay.
Your memory's better than mine, but
I don't think you were here.
It was maintenance, I was the
Yeah,
yeah.
electric bill, electric and all that.
I'll have to recall.
Okay.
I have-
Might have been street lights or the maintenance for the armory with the fire department. No.
Was it? No, it
Have to
wasn't.
go back and listen to all our meetings.
Well, I know, yeah.
Okay, Mike.
But in talking with Mary just last week, she said, I said, what is your true expense amount out of that expense and maintenance? She said, I need $5,000.
Nice.
So I reduced her 18.5 to 5 because Todd's has that in there now.
Yes.
So that's sort of an update.
Okay.
One of the major changes
So when you say Todd has it in there, that's the other 13.5 is
is in his
in
maintenance.
his facilities
Yeah, the
maintenance.
facilities budget, expense budget did go up as I.
It did.
And
It
that's
did.
because
Yeah, we're starting
expenses are
to
coming
move
from
stuff.
other departments into facilities, and that explains why his budget is going up where others are going down in expense,
Right.
which is, I believe, the right direction.
Right, so we're doing sort of one building, at a time, moving
Right.
that over, but I'd like to see all utilities paid strictly from, the
facilities
facilities. Yep, yep.
Okay.
Any other questions? One other thing that I wanted to mention, we talked about a working group
Yes.
for the override. So Kathleen will be on that. It will be Selectman Sean Kane, myself, and possibly Frank Lynham, the former town administrator, who's just great with the budget. And so what we need to think about is the alternate fiscal 2026 budget if the override does not pass. So it's not only like where are we going to cut, it's the information that we need for the working group is what formula are we going to use to figure out the contingency budget. The revenue-based budget that Sean outlined at the joint select board meeting or something else. If not that budget, what alternative proposals do you suggest so that we can come up with the numbers, a true number, then to work with, to use that to make our reductions in staff and our cuts to the budget. But without like a blueprint, what are we doing? I mean, if the budget passes as is, the override passes, everyone gets what we have in the budget. But if it doesn't, so that's what we need, some input, Kathleen, from you, but on behalf of your
And I'll
board.
need to,
Yep. Yep. So the entire FinCom's input would be
Yes.
helpful through you when we get together.
and I'll put that on I will revise next week's agenda in a timely fashion.
Yes, please,
And-
please do.
And add that discussion, though it's gonna be a busy meeting, we have the town clerk, and then we have the school committee, Lansing Regional
Yes,
School
the
District.
superintendent, yeah.
But it has to be done, because the working group needs guidance before it starts the
Working.
Exactly.
That
Working.
information needed by?
Well, so we have our next joint meeting on the 25th. So the first thing, I met with Sean tonight, and the first thing that we're working on is a multi-year override to come up with. We went through some basic assumptions. Matter of fact, Kathleen, it's downstairs, but I'll send it to you. It's just some. Sean put together some great slides just, to get the PowerPoint started with 2.5% for salaries, which isn't just a 2.5% based on the unions and there are other items that they get in their contracts. And then a 2% increase assumption for expenses. We figured we'd use a 12% assumption based on this 1183 for the Plymouth County. We'll use a 10% assumption for medical. The medical insurance for the town of Whitman for the regular, not the medics, but the non-retirees is 7%. And it's only 7% because the Mayflower Municipal Health Group is probably the best run joint purchase group, not only in the state, it's right up there in the country, like the top 3, 4. And we have, a lot of people now, towns that want to get in. But the reason that our percent, while it's higher than it was last year, is very low across the industry is because we have very healthy reserves. And the Mayflower Municipal Health Group decided to put 4 or 5 million at risk to keep that down. So the GIC is about 15% increase this year for its members. And when I went to the MMA conference, it's now called Connect 351 with Kathy and Justin, Maya, they also offer health insurance. I know Norwell uses Maya. Their increases are like 9.25 to 19%. And 15% for the GIC and 7% for Mayflower. Now, I think we were 4% last year, so it is, a good
It's up,
increase.
but it's
Comparatively
compared to
speaking.
the other, wow, that's.
But they're not
big.
putting millions at risk, but they don't have the healthy reserves and the good investments and so forth. I mean, it's managed really well, and I spoke with the attorney, the town's council, doing the negotiations, meeting with her, and she also deals with many, many school districts. And she said that Mayflower is, without a doubt, like right up there. So we'll use a 10%. It came in at 7%. They told me at the beginning of the season to budget like 8 to 10%. I had already put in 7 as a placeholder, and it came in at 7%. So that was good.
And just FYI, based on my calculations, I didn't run this by you this morning. I met with Mary Beth this morning to sort of get things rolling.
Yep.
Because Sean's schedule and mine were not compatible. We're looking at a $2.2 million override.
And is that because
Including
that
the
was my next
schools.
question, what is, as we stand now, what is the deficit like? If something doesn't pass, how much money are we looking at, the
Well,
deficit?
so right now I have the deficit of 2.243,255. However, that we said we'd use 140 of free cash for the OPEB and 200 to go towards the Plymouth County retirement. So 340 would come off that. So about 1.9, I would say, is where we are today. But like I said, we're waiting still for some more things. Also, I have the accountant's office does calculations on all the union members, but she doesn't want to do calculations 3 times in depth. So I asked her to go through for the Council on Aging, the Town Hall, the library, and do the calculations, just update the employees that have left with the correct steps and at a level. And then I could just add 0, 1, 2, 3, whatever the percent ends up being. So she's doing more exact calculations than just going by what these department heads put in. So I have received some of those. She gave me the longevity today, and so each, week she's given me more and more precise information for the budget. But I was hoping, and I might be too aggressive with my thinking, but I was kind of hoping that March 25th, and that's the joint meeting, that we could, and I don't know if we'll be able to, but have the select board possibly vote Article 2 or town meeting articles. Or...
So the other consideration is for a ballot question, we need to get to the clerk 35 days
That's correct.
before the election. So 35 days before May 17th is right around that end of March, beginning of April
Right.
timeframe.
Right.
Last year, your deadline was April 11th.
So it's probably
For
right.
a day later, so probably it's going to be April 10th.
It was April 11th, and it was, there was a
Zoom
lot to
meeting.
do.
Right.
Yeah, there was a lot to do. So I would like to at least get draft articles to you even before. I was a little hesitant with that last year, but I'm not so this year. It's and then if anything changes, we'll just give you those couple articles again to look at. But once I get that together, you could start maybe looking at those and getting your recommendations, so that I have to get it to the printer, I have to get it to posting, and it's just, unfortunately, the last big number is always the schools, and it's March 20th
They'll vote to certify the budget.
to certify it. So that's the final number that we plug in.
Yeah.
Yep, and it was then that we got that number, then I had to go rework the budget and weekends. I tried to
Work your
make,
magic, because $780,000.
it wasn't easy. I mean, I
Sure
went
wasn't.
through every page of what people had spent and made, but I really felt like we stripped it back too far.
Sean's been patiently waiting to be recognized.
I'm sorry, Sean.
Just something to keep in mind, Chuck. The negotiation piece is big. So right now it's the deficit's at whatever 2.2, but that's without any negotiated contract.
Right.
So we have in there 2.5%. I don't know
Placeholder.
exactly where that's going to be.
I believe the school's in the same place. They have a placeholder. Everyone knows what the placeholder is, even though it's a secret. And, yeah, but we're looking at right now, so you said it's down to 1.9.
If we took
If-
off with the free cash, 2 items that Sean would like to.
But it's 2.2 if you don't. So, and last year the budget deficit was on the best day a 1.2. And Mary Beth worked her magic. The schools did cut their assessment, so there was still a gap at the end, as those of you who were at town meeting all know.
509-212.
Yes, it was. And I can tell you how it was covered. But it's not easy. And we're talking the same sort of draconian measures that would suggested closing the library, closing, I forget who else was going to
Yeah,
be
I read
closed.
that.
And,
Into that.
and where do you go? The only budgets that have a big chunk of money are police and fire. So it's not that you're anti-police, anti-fire. It's like
Yeah.
the Council on Aging has a small budget. You can't get 1.7 or 1.9 million from cutting senior citizens' luncheons or whatever it is that Mary does. She does an amazing job there. So it's people need to be informed, and I think that's what I've said all
Yeah, hopefully it's
along.
coming out a little earlier. I know, like,
Significantly, yeah, lots of people talking
you're
about it.
discussing forums in April.
But it's never easy. I mean,
No.
losing our firefighters and our police officers,
Yeah.
that ambulance,
Yeah.
getting out there, public safety. I mean, there's serious,
Yeah.
just because it's the largest budget doesn't
But
mean
still,
it's,
I mean,
it's
they're there
there's
for
no
a
good
reason.
place.
They're there for a
Exactly.
reason.
That's what I mean. So,
You know.
Right.
and the
Yeah.
Where
library.
you fill in the pool, you know?
We were going to close the recreation
Yeah.
department.
But
That was
that's
one of the-
32,000.
Yeah,
Right.
that
You know,
doesn't do
that's
much.
like-
And you lose something like that in,
Right.
in the town.
And the library is not essential. It's not essential. But do you know what a wonderful job that library and the
Yes.
programs they have and the
David
kids?
David was in with his presentation
He's
as always.
fantastic.
Yeah.
What he has done with the programs at that library and the attendance and what he has done and added. That would be a huge loss. Everything, everywhere we look, there's no easy
Hopefully-
cut.
Hopefully that, and people get informed and make a good
Yeah.
decision, you know.
Yeah, but we do need some direction before we can start to make the cuts on the
Yeah.
formula that we're going to use. That will,
We won't take it up tonight, but we will
no,
take it up.
but that will tell us how much.
Sure, Mike.
Question. So we have to vote on Article 2, our recommendations by when?
No, we haven't set that deadline.
Set that. March 25th is when Mary Beth would like the select board to vote.
Okay.
But it's really the FinCom recommendation that goes before town meeting.
But when does that have to be in by?
Get
I,
it printed.
Get it
Does it have to
printed?
get it be on the?
well, I have to get it
The next few
to,
weeks are
We
pretty
have
booked up.
we have the week of April 1st where nobody's
Right.
coming to speak to us. So I'm thinking of that as the week that we could just,
power through.
power through and say, all right.
Otherwise, that hour and a half meeting thing
There
doesn't
may be
work.
nights- there
I've
might
spent
be
many
nights
nights
that-
here
Actually, it's
till
gonna be big too.
9:30, 10
especially when
o'clock,
you talk about
10:30.
contingency budget, It's gonna be,
Could we start at 6
Another
on
one.
April 1st?
Can
we have the school.
Yeah, I
We
can-
did 48 hours.
We
Oh,
work,
yes.
it work.
That's a great suggestion, actually, Mike. Start, does 6 o'clock work for
if it
everybody?
works for people.
Not early, right?
6 o'clock on what day?
April 1st.
I start at 3:30 in the morning. man.
Yes.
Sure.
Well, I'm kind of worried about talking about the contingency budget too.
Yeah,
Next week's gonna be a big one with the school, it's gonna be a long one. as
right.
well.
That'll be other things.
I am going to send you my analysis of the school budget because it's a $63 million budget. I don't focus on the assessment. I focus on where did the assessment come from. And I had 33 questions that I sent to the superintendent's office. I received response back for 10 of the questions with the promise, and I'll get more to you by... I don't need that. The other questions will be answered by Thursday, so I can put an analysis in an email to you guys. So that next Tuesday, you'll have my analysis of where the increases came from. Why did it go up $300,000 in the curriculum line item? I need the answer. I don't have that answer yet, but those are the kind of line item questions that I asked the superintendent's office, and he and the business manager are working on getting those back to me by Thursday.
Wow,
So you'll
that's
have, come into the meeting next Tuesday with some level of preparation for where did things go, why did they go up, and where can you cut?
And just so you know, I did send an email out to the schools just saying, what do you want us to use for the assumptions for the district's budget for 27 and 28? So we know what they gave us for a number for 26, but what am I plugging in? I can't decide that number. You know what I mean? So we need to see what they come back with. But again, for the alternate budget, we need to know the formula, revenue-based or some alternative. Once we plug that in, we'll see what the deficit is then, based on that, and then we'll be able to say, okay, now look what departments. But without that, that's step one, so.
If I may, to the selectmen, do you guys think we're going to be locked into a cycle of everybody coming up for contracts now that we're kind of in this cycle after COVID? I believe we had negotiated some 1 or 2 year contracts. Former town administrator had always said it was nice to have them broken up, and obviously not all
It
at the
is.
same time.
Yes.
This is brutal.
And we're going to be locked into this going forward.
Unless one decides
I
to
just-
contract early.
Right.
Yeah, I can say, at least my opinion, when they all do come at the same time, police and fire go first, and then the other unions look to them. So it does make it a little easier on that end.
Yeah.
The problem is if you have trouble reaching a contract with police or fire, it
Then
delays the entire
backs everything up.
process.
It's kind of nice to have some coordination amongst them. You know, the negotiations are happening kind of in sync, and we can have an executive session to have some strategy for all. So that
Yeah.
there's some benefit to that, but obviously it's a lot in 1 year.
Yeah, because I'm curious when it's all said and done, if to see how you guys feel, how it goes. Is there a benefit to that or not? Having everybody up. I will just say, just a point. I'm hoping that contracts are reached in a fairly timely fashion, and it doesn't come down to us on the night of town meeting.
Yeah.
I think that is it's wishful thinking right now. I
Yeah,
actually
because-
don't believe we'll have contracts by town meeting.
And that's a shame.
It's a shame.
Things went perfectly, it would be done before
Yeah.
town meeting.
Yeah.
We had a schedule set up, and it would be done before town meeting, so obviously we'd have that information. But
Yeah.
it doesn't look like that's gonna
I just think that it makes it so hard for everything that we are sitting here
does.
discussing.
All right.
Not just that, I plan to put the articles on as placeholders, a sum
Yeah.
of money for the unions,
Yeah.
in case it happens, after. But don't forget, too, that if they don't settle, and then they settle into the next year, then the treasurer's office has to do retros.
Retroactive.
And
Yeah.
everybody, once that's settled, They say, am I getting my money tomorrow, my next week's check? Okay, it's 5 unions, all different, every person has different rates. We
Yeah,
have to
that'll
have a
be-
stop
that'll be
period
challenging.
to then change the rate over and then do the
Yeah.
retro. And not everybody, it's not a push of a button, so
Maybe in negotiations right now?
5 unions.
Yeah, I'll just say
Who's in
that, you
charge of
know,
that? Selectmen?
Yep.
Who's in charge of it? He has different
We split it up.
departments?
Yeah, I have fire, you've got police. I think
What's
Dan has
the
both
biggest
of them.
hang up you guys have with them,
I'm on all.
for
yeah, it
example?
doesn't always mean them. You know, I'm just going to say that I think unions are great, but you gotta. I feel, you know, everybody should work together. The employer and the people who are going to be the employees, recognizing what it means to get a deal. So I
Does
just
that happen every year though?
Every 3
every
years.
few years, every 3 years.
We anticipate that there's going to be delays or whatnot? I mean,
We don't know yet.
Yeah, we don't know, but-
Mike Andrews?
Is there a time, there's no time they need to be done by?
should be
Yeah,
before
that's
town
the
meeting.
Process if there's
Yeah.
an impasse. Mediation and stuff like that.
Right, so with that, once there's, there's no set time for that after, I mean,
I mean, the current contracts expire on June 30th, and so after that date, there's language that the existing conditions of the contract will continue, but there's no cost of living increase planned for the next year. So they'd effectively get a zero until a new contract is reached, and that's when the retro
Right.
and then they retro.
generally kicks in. It's not guaranteed that there's retro pay, but
So it's very difficult to put a budget together, correct?
Yeah,
How would
I mean
that, how would
that's
that work if they didn't come to a negotiation until, say, September?
Get this
This
right.
happened.
And
In the
what
budget,
day?
how does that work? You're only budgeted for so much, certain departments, and they say it goes up like $100,000 during the fiscal year.
So I mean, worst case would mean a reserve fund or a line item transfer to backfill. It would all be in I think all the impacts in the contracts would end up being the salary line. Maybe some other locations that could hit us, but
Could be a special town meeting.
could be special. But we now have the consolidated budget. Most of those departments can handle salary increases if they're higher than anticipated for the first 7-8 months of the year.
Their overtime will go down.
Yeah, or that. I mean,
Yeah. You got an increase, but you're not going to be working that overtime.
or the police feel less shifts overnight. Or,
Yeah,
there's a lot of
exactly.
ways to make
We're
the-
less guys because we can't fund it.
yeah.
So
That's sold.
And those
the contract end up in June, they're renewed in June?
They're all
Fiscal year.
June 30th of 2025 on
So-
5 contracts.
Yeah.
So we're not going to have any idea then, correct?
Well,
No,
hopefully.
we're not sure that some could settle. I mean, there's a very stated process. Ground rules meeting and then, so many
Yeah.
meetings and put your proposals, put our
I'm a union
proposals.
carpenter, so.
Yeah.
I
Okay, so you
understand.
know,
Yeah, I
right.
understand, but that's what I'm saying is, it's, in the negotiations that it's easy for someone to just pass it by and say nope and then, not talk for whatever. It's hard because I don't understand how the negotiations are going,
Right,
Yeah.
and we
But is there
can't
an
say.
incentive?
Right, and you
Yeah.
can't say, right, and.
Is there any incentive for them, from the town perspective, to get it done prior to town meeting? Other than the burden it puts on the entire community? It can be a no, you guys can say that, I'm just curious. It seems like it's more of a stall tactic to me.
Right.
It,
We would love them all
You
to
get town
settle.
meeting and then you have.
one wants to see what the other one's getting,
Right.
and then, you know what I mean, they base it on that.
And you're budgeting for that,
You're a
right?
fire guy, you hear
It's not
what,
because we can't talk about
Right,
what's in
yeah.
the negotiation, but I would just say we had a schedule
yes.
and that was gonna finish before town meeting
Yep.
for these reasons, and right now, we're not on schedule. It's
Alright.
kicked off, so.
Okay.
And we put the 2.5%
As a
placeholder in, like we said.
placeholder. Yeah,
Assume
yeah.
that, and for me, it makes it easier to say, okay, if something,
Yeah.
if something, we need to cut somewhere, then, how did negotiations go?
Oh, okay, I see what you're saying.
But it seems like stalling to this point to pray for an override seems like a disservice to the employees you're employing.
I doubt that the employer is doing the stalling, but I'm not on the
I'm not saying-
negotiating
I guess if
team.
I'm
There's
ask-
two sides.
asking for the moon and I don't quite get it, that seems a little opposite to me, but
Yeah.
just a curious situation.
Yeah, it is tough.
on the deal, that's for sure.
Yeah, it would be nice if we didn't have contracts because we'd know what the salaries were, but we do have contracts that we have to anticipate what it will be in fiscal '26 without any solid
2.5.
2.5, yeah. Okay,
And to your comment, Chuck, I would like to see them staggered. I think that
Yeah.
with the magnitude of 5 unions all at the
All
same
at
time.
once. It
It's a lot.
may be good in some ways, but
Right.
other ways, the repercussions from it, yeah, I didn't even think of that. That's
Yeah.
a lot of people if you're gonna
Yep,
do that.
a lot of meetings,
handle all at once.
lot of fees for council all in 1 year.
Right,
Yeah.
You
yeah,
know,
yeah.
so-
all right, any other questions? No, Chuck? No?
I'm good.
All right, well, Mary Beth, thank you.
Oh, that was a great presentation.
I most certainly will. I will send you that electronically. Okay, thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Good night. Thanks, you too.
So we'll go back to our agenda. and The eye on
I
the
have this
clock.
presentation up. I'm still
Kathleen,
looking over everybody's thing.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, I don't have any questions.
But,
Yeah.
I read it.
Okay.
See you guys.
Let's get back to the agenda.
See you guys.
Have a good night, John.
The infusion of paper has got me disorganized for me.
Will you let me know, so I'll know that you're done?
Yes,
Come down.
I'll come down to your office and say goodnight.
That's fine.
Thank
Then
you.
I can lock up the doors.
Yes, you can. I forgot to bring my set of keys, so she's got to lock up the building.
Okay.
Okay, so let's go to, we've done the new business. So we'll go to old business subcommittee reports. I will quickly state that the Capital Committee is meeting this Thursday at 5:30. And we do have representatives from the school coming in to talk about those capital items up for the school requesting. Whitman Hanson Regional Agreement, we met last Wednesday. Didn't make an awful lot of progress. We're meeting again in March. No, this is March, April 26th. The language is the mandated, non-mandated busing, or actually transportation language, which we've been hung up on for 5 years, 6 years. It's insane. But I'm not going to budge.
Just keep going at it,
I'm
Kathleen.
not, we're talking significant money here. And just as an example, we would have been paying $500,000 in non-mandated busing if pressure had been or not been placed on the administration several years ago to talk to DESI and say, what's going on? So they went to the mileage method, which cut our assessment from $300,000 down to $180,000 that year, and we got $300,000 in reimbursements. So we're talking real money here.
Yeah.
So Hanson doesn't like the language because it hits them for like 50 grand. I like the language because it gives us $50,000 relief, but,
They have no sidewalks.
Yeah.
and,
That's
yeah,
sidewalks.
and some sidewalks and their kids can
Sidewalks
and
is
walk.
the walk.
Yeah,
We
we-
put money into our sidewalks this year.
Well, the last couple of years, I don't know if it'll be in, I don't know if they'll have a capital article. The last few years, we were able to,
Put money-
besides the Chapter 90 money, we were, putting in a couple $100,000 and, to have,
Sidewalk,
to be able to do
streets.
another street or two.
I think that
Yeah,
they.
And I think-
they've been doing great. They just did it at Washington
Yes.
Street this summer.
Yeah.
They were doing on that left side of that. redoing.
And I think, I'm sure there are plenty of taxpayers that would love to see their street done.
Yes.
There's still a lot more to go, so it'd
I
be
like
nice.
it.
Yeah, you're right.
I'm fine with mine. People go slower on my street now with this.
All right, and then my final.
The best part, right.
My final committee report is the middle school building, and we are meeting on March 25th. We have a contract with the Fontaine Brothers as the GC, and I honestly don't know what's on the budget yet, on the agenda yet, because that'll come out later this week, but we'll be meeting. So that's my report, and Mike, did you get anything from Rick?
I didn't. Did he email you?
I haven't seen
You gotta give
anything.
them a call at 1 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah, you gotta wake up early.
Yeah.
He's always up.
I will email Rick and ask him.
I actually looked back and I saw that you had forwarded me one back in January.
Yeah,
So I was like, and just look into my emails, and that was the only thing I
I
had.
haven't received anything, and I can go take a look at when is the last time the DPW building committee met,
Yeah.
looking at the town calendar and say, Rick, did you guys meet and did you have anything to share with us?
Yes.
So that takes care of our old business. Under communications, I'd like to request that I did email you all a draft of my annual town report. It's my first year having to write it. I said, oh shoot, I didn't know the chair had to do this. So I'm really
Did
good
you already
with
send it out?
I
Yeah,
sent it
sent
to, yeah, I
it through
did email
email,
it to
yeah.
everybody. I'm really good with spreadsheets. I'm not prose. My major was biochemistry, chemistry, not English. So please feel free to edit it. And I am going to edit
Just
it myself.
copy paste
I
last year's.
One change.
One change, you got my name right in the introduction of new committee members.
Okay.
But then at the end, when you wrote everybody's name, you gave me Rick's name, Mike Anderson,
Oh,
instead of Michael. Mike Andrews.
People-
I was like, she wrote it right up here.
what
and
time
then,
did I send it to you?
I don't know.
Probably
I
3
don't
in the
know.
morning.
I was like, she got it right up here, and
My
then
name
down at
is
the
wrong,
bottom.
too. Put me as Mike Flaherty.
Oh. That was when you were deep
Well,
into it.
this is why you need to read it.
I'm
This
doing.
is-
I'm
Very
embedding.
quick.
She was checking to see if we read it, because it's the
Yeah.
very last
Yeah.
thing, you know?
Okay,
But,
and then your name won't be on it because you were not a member as of December 31st.
But other than that, it did look.
Yeah, and you know the quick read was, you know, it was, I think it was important to really kind of write it out what happened last year. You know,
I wasn't here, so it was great for me.
you know, if you looked at the previous year's reports, it's a little different. This was more focusing on a certain scenario, I would say.
Let him have it.
We've never been at loggerheads with the select board. They've never gone up against us at town meeting. Maybe an occasional small change, but not selectmen with override, selectmen without override. This is our recommendation. It was a real power play. Yet we left respecting each other. It was a very respectful discussion, but it was a real power play. And then ours was nobody gets laid off and there's no Prop 2.5 override. We worked to the very last minute to get a budget that everybody could come to agreement on. It was like, take ours or take one of theirs. One of theirs is going to be a risk to either the town employees or the schools. Or let's just get this done using free cash and work really early in fiscal
And do
26.
it and make it an operational
Operational
full
override.
So was it
override.
wrong for me to just state that you know, if, how negotiations are going, that, you know, it makes it easier for me to look, you know, to one of the unions that's holding up negotiations, you know?
We don't know who's holding anything up.
Right.
Yeah,
You're in the union, you know how it works.
Right.
Yeah.
But I mean, opposed to from something else around the community,
Yeah.
you know, other aspects,
Yes.
you know, non-union,
yeah,
you know.
yeah.
Okay, so please,
Read it. and-
yes, please read
Yeah,
it,
well,
edit it, and then
suggest edit it.
next Tuesday we will vote on it so that I can submit it to the Laurie O'Brien to get it printed in this annual 2024 annual report. And then just because I was reminded to complete my cybersecurity training, I'm just asking you, have you all completed your cybersecurity training?
I don't
Or
think
not?
so.
Okay, well, just,
It just came
it's a
out
gentle.
yesterday.
Yeah, I just started getting
Gentlemen.
notifications.
Is it a new one? Or?
Yeah, it came out yesterday.
I don't know.
Well,
Actually,
as
one
the
of-
only
one of
retired
them's
person
good.
sitting here at the table, I can do it whenever I want. But
You kicked
you
off.
guys have limited time.
Yeah.
So, thank you. If you haven't, please do it, and if you have, thank you. And then the last thing I'll say is our upcoming meetings. March 11th is the town clerk and the Whitman Hanson superintendent of schools will be in next week. The 18th, we have one confirmed. The Conservation Committee has confirmed. I don't know if the Planning Board or Historical Commission have confirmed to be coming in on the 18th. The 25th, we meet with the Select Board. No budget managers that night, so we can get started
On
on
What
articles.
town's that, 6 o'clock?
6 o'clock with the Select Board, and then then we go from there to
6
here.
7, yeah.
And then the following week, April 1st, I like the idea of starting at 6 o'clock if nobody objects to that.
I don't have time. I have tough time, but I'll try.
You can phone in. Thank you, Al.
Well, we might be able to leave early, you know.
Yeah,
If we don't even do.
Why don't we we'll follow up on that as we get closer.
6 o'clock.
Yeah, see how everybody feels.
Yeah.
You know, and maybe next week.
Okay.
Let them check
Well, I'll
their
have to put it
schedules.
in, have to put the notice in a timely
Yeah,
fashion in the
guys,
town
yeah.
clerk's office
6
to
days a
revise the agenda, because I'm not sure if
I
Mike
don't know if
Warner
Mike
has.
put that one in yet.
All right, so I'll generate one that tentatively has a 6 o'clock start date. April 8th, we have the Capital Committee coming in. We're meeting this Thursday, we're also meeting the 20th. So we have two Capital Committee meetings to vote recommendations for the capital items, which are separate from Article 2. And we have almost all of the article requests in. And May 5th is the town meeting. So that's all I have for tonight.
I got a quick question.
Mike?
I noticed on the agenda of the bylaw committee,
Yeah?
something about how to appoint new future FinCom members? Did you see anything like that?
Oh, that was an argument several years ago at town meeting where someone thought that the select board,
Should be
not
able
the
to.
town moderator, that the town moderator would suggest names and then the select board would do the appointing. That was resolved in favor of the moderators doing a great job. Leave it alone.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
It was a citizen's
Glad you noticed
petition.
that.
Yeah, I noticed the other day.
I know
Yeah,
who the
you're
author
saying,
was.
yeah.
Who was not happy with the existing FinCom members.
I was like trying to manipulate it. You know.
Yeah, it was a political move.
Yeah.
Chuck.
I have one question since you're on the middle school
Yep.
committee. So when it came in at the middle school, the budget, the under 15.
$15 million
Okay.
under.
So, obviously you guys talked about maybe solar. I would like to see, I think it would be good if, instead of trying to spend that money, unless it was something really worth it, instead of trying to spend that money, I think it would be prudent to just take that and not add anything else, because under the circumstances of everything we got coming down the pipe.
I may not have reported that we, at our last meeting, where the solar option was there.
Yeah.
It was, if it was 13 members attended the meeting, 12 to 1 voted no
For solar?
for solar.
It's a joke. I used to sell it. I can tell you.
Yeah,
You
it was.
know,
Yeah.
Don't buy it.
And we're
always
also,
lease it. You
yeah,
know, 'cause
we're
once you-
politically sensitive to the reality that it's an expensive school. There's a lot of, this is a good spin for the middle school building that we are on 15 million under budget, and we
Yeah.
are planning to stay 15 million
Yeah.
under
Is
budget.
the heating
Yep.
to that school gonna be electric?
I don't know.
'Cause I wasn't sure if that might actually offset the cost.
I
'Cause
don't-
Right now, is it gas? I would assume it's gas.
It's gas with patchwork and duct tape and prayer that it doesn't break down.
So
And I have
probably
2
go back to
grandchildren in
gas.
that building. It's, yeah,
It probably
gas.
still would be, but the solar would probably power, some of the electricity.
I'll find out though, Mike, and I'll email you.
But anyways, yeah, I just wanted it to be,
Kilowatt.
I just think if we're under budget, that's money that we save on the taxpayers.
We have all become
Yeah.
fiscal conservatives.
Yes, fiscal conservatives.
We've got the building, we're gonna keep it
That's
at
right.
the lowest cost because
That's
the
right.
building is beautiful.
Yeah.
It meets the needs that we asked for, we've got funded for it, we're not gonna ask for anything
In
more.
my eyes, the solar doesn't help the kids inside the building. You know what I mean?
That's right.
We're paying. We can pay for the electric. We just need the kids to be inside the building.
The safe
Inside the building, learning and learning what they should be learning.
Well, if there's nothing else tonight, and this was a very productive meeting, thanks to Mary Beth, who's always organized, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. Al, second?
I'll second it.
Okay, I saw Mike's hand, but Chuck, thank you. So we have plenty of people willing to vote on this. All in favor of adjourning? It's unanimous. We're adjourning at 8:28. Thank you all.